Francisco Lindor is hurt, and Juan Soto is going to the left, to the left. What an announcement from David Stearns on Tuesday. A couple of big items we got to get to today. Let's start off with Francisco Lindor. Listen, this is why some of us don't love the WBC is you worry about injuries happening and how that go in the season. Well, this happens before the WBC a couple of days ago. Lindor may miss 6 weeks with a stress reaction in his hamate bone in his left hand. Now, this is similar to the injury that Francisco Alvarez had. And remember, it did hurt Alvarez's power numbers. Alvarez did not hit like he did his rookie year last year in terms of, being a 20, 25 homer guy. So you hope it doesn't affect Lindor, but the reality is it might. And Francisco Lindor, being the 30-30 guy that he is, and Francisco Lindor has been a 30-homer hitter the last 3 years in a Mets uniform. 31, 33, 31, 31, 29, 31 stolen base. So 2 30-30 years, one nearly 30-30 year. And the 6-week timeline, even if he does get surgery, it may require surgery, the Mets are confident that he'll still be ready for opening day. But we'll see. That 6 weeks, David Stearns said, would include a ramp-up as well. So a little bit nerve-wracking here because it's February 10th this happened, or I guess the days leading up to it, and it's not even pitchers and catchers, not even spring training games, and your cornerstone franchise player is already hurt going into the season. Remember, he struggles in April, so you know how all the fans say, oh, why can't he ever do anything in April? Well, he might have an excuse for that now because he's not going to be 100%. Now, this is not a season-ending injury. I don't think it's really even a reason to be that nervous. It's just more frustration of why Lindor, how did this happen, and is it going to linger? You worry it's going to linger. Like, there were points last year you thought that injury would linger when he got hurt in Colorado or the Nationals, whenever that game was, where he came right back, and you're thinking, did he come back too soon with that hand injury? Or the foot, the toe. Remember, he had the broken toe he's playing with, essentially. So that was the toe. Now it's the hand. What's next? My neck, my back, my you-know-what, my crack? Like, what's coming up next, for Lindor? But, this is a guy who's been durable in a Mets uniform. 125 games his first year. That was the only year he was really hurt. Then it was 161, 160, 152, 160. He does not miss time. This is a guy throughout his entire career has never missed a significant amount of games. Not including the first year he came up. Other than that, every year, 125 was the least he played. 158, 159, 158, 143. The full 60-game season in pandemic year, 125, 161, 160, 152, 160. So he's durable, and now you just hope he could be ready. You're watching Mets Daily. I'm Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Live. Hit that thumbs up in the video. Comment. Keep on subscribing, folks. We've passed 4,000. Next goal is 5,000. Make sure you share the channel as well, and we'll read your comments as always. So keep on bringing the heat, bringing the good comments, and we'll read your comments at the end of the show. The chance that he misses time, there's a slight chance, and if he does, what do the Mets do? Now, Bo Bichette is an option. Bo Bichette is a shortstop. They're moving him to third base, which he hasn't played. We'll see how that works out. You could use Ronnie Mauricio. Ronnie, remember, though, has that option. They saved his option here, so Ronnie could be a short-term. Having an option means this whole year you can option Ronnie. Now, you don't want to mess with Ronnie again, but he does play short, so he is an option. You could use for a short-term Vidal Brujan. Not very exciting. I think the obvious option would be Bichette at short, Beatty at third, and then whatever, DH Vientos, if he ends up missing more time. But 6 weeks, you do the math, the 24th, then you add another 4. That's the 28th, 3rd, 4th, the 11th, the 18th, the 25th, and opening day is 26. So if the 6 weeks, including ramp up, is right, he'll be ready for the Mets opening day, which I hope he is. Because listen, my 23rd year in a row, go with my dad, Paul Skeens, Freddie Peralta, Citi Field, Thursday the 26th, moving back to New York potentially that weekend. So I hope Lindor is back. It just won't hit the same if it's, and at shortstop, Vidal Brujan. I'll pass. The other big news item was Juan Soto moving to left field. Now, I think this makes the most sense for him, for the Mets, because Soto has played left. He's logged 4,000 innings in left. He started his career in the Nationals uniform in left field. You know, there's always been this talk of at one point the Mets move him to first base down the road. Obviously, way too soon for that. I'm like a little surprised it's coming this soon to left, but is it that big of a deal? He's played the position. It's an easier position than playing right field. You know, you need the better arm you would rather have in right field, and that's Carson Bench. So what this begs the question is Juan Soto moving to left, will Bench now be your right fielder? Will it be Tyrone Taylor? Obviously, Taylor can play all outfield positions pretty well. He's naturally a center fielder, but he can play right. Listen, at this point, if Bench impresses, he's got to be your guy just because Tyrone Taylor does not hit enough. I like Tyrone as a backup, but if he's going to be in April your everyday right fielder, that's not good for the Mets lineup. It just isn't at the bottom of the order. Where Bench, if he projects to be the hitter that they think he's going to be, there's some excitement there at the bottom of the order from Carson Bench. You know what Tyrone Taylor is. But I like this. You know, I like the move from the Mets because I think Soto in left helps them overall as a team defensively. You know, obviously there's still going to be the mess ups here and there. He's not I think people make him like he's just an awful outfielder. I don't think he is. I doubt he's ever going to win a Gold Glove, to be honest. But he can be a serviceable left fielder for you. And I'll always say this. If Jeff McNeil can play left and right field effectively, so can Juan Soto. And I think he's going to be just fine out there. And I'm excited to see it. But, yeah, that kind of didn't come out of nowhere. But it was like, oh, wow, Lindor hurt and Soto moving to left field. So your two cornerstone franchise player, one of them, jeopardy of missing opening day, but the Mets seem like he's not. And the other one, Juan Soto, moving to left field. So a couple of big changes here going into spring training. It's going to be interesting to watch. Really, the Lindor recovery, because Soto, you know, we've seen him in left in his career. I don't think that's like groundbreaking stuff that's going on there. But, wow, a lot of news here in Mets land. The other piece of news that dropped, not as exciting, but I do think it's worth mentioning and worth discussing. And that's the Mets acquiring left-handed reliever Brian Hudson from the Chicago White Sox for cash considerations. Now, why Hudson is intriguing, shocker, his best year, 2024, in Milwaukee. So David Stearns, now that was Stearns' first year at the Mets, but obviously he talks to people in Milwaukee. You know, Hudson did not do much last year, but he only pitched 15 innings in the big leagues, 4.80 ERA. So, you know, there's not much to say about that. The Brewers, you know, designated for assignment. The White Sox picked him up in August. He only pitched 4 2/3 innings there. So, to me, 2025 was kind of a wash for Brian Hudson. You know, he just didn't pitch enough. But just look at his 2024 season, guys. 62 2/3 innings, 62 strikeouts. He averaged a strikeout an inning. His whip was just .72. To me, this could be like one of those diamond in the rough moves that we barely even talk about that could be a factor. You know, the Mets maybe opt now not to go after Danny Coulomb. Now, Hudson could end up in AAA like he was for a lot of 2025, but, you know, if Hudson cracks the team and he's one of the last guys on the roster, if he's anywhere remotely close to what he did in 2024, this is maybe the steal of the offseason. Like, if Brian Hudson is a 2 ERA, 60-inning pitcher as a reliever for you, you're in good hands. And the Mets aren't asking that. You know, as I've said in the past, a lot hinders on A.J. Minter's health and when he comes back. Sounds like the Mets are expecting A.J. Minter back in May. So maybe Hudson is your other lefty. It's Raley and Hudson for April. And then when Minter's back, they'll readdress and see how Hudson's doing. But, man, if Brian Hudson gets back to the 2024 guy, the Mets might have got themselves a dog in the bullpen. You know, he's a big four-seamer, sweeper guy, a little bit of a cutter as well. Brian Hudson doesn't throw cheese, but he's got some good off-speed stuff. And, man, I'm thinking if he reinvigorates himself into 2024 Brian Hudson, this could be the trade that no one talks about. Now, I don't want to, you know, again, he's a scrap piece. I'm not talking about the guy like he's a Hall of Famer. But you traded him for cash. I mean, it cost you nothing to get this dude. To me, it's kind of a no-brainer move, and maybe could fly under the radar. It could make, you know, Stearns look like the boy genius that people like to call him. Hit that thumbs up. Keep on commenting. Let's read a couple of your comments from yesterday's show from Shakamoto, Mets Daily Insider. Remember, you earned the celebration, man. Happy birthday. Let's follow the lead of the boys down the PSL. Get to it. Let's go, Mets. Yeah, I did. I've been working hard. This show every day, a full-time job, social media work, fantasy loser. I've been super busy. So, yes, I did earn the celebration. So, thank you. I do want to make a trip. I actually got to start thinking about that trip to PSL. That's something I got to do this week and try to map that out. I do want to try and get down there. The C Money, good breakdown of player-by-player invitees. Thank you, C Money. Nona says, Mets traded away a lot of their top middle infielders, Jet Williams, Luis Acuna, and Jeremiah Jackson. They have only one maybe prospect soon, A.J. Ewing. Hopefully, Ronnie is fully healed with his knee so he can fill Lindor's shoes. Yes, well, if Lindor misses time, Ronnie is fine. I think the reality is Ronnie just got screwed last year. He didn't get to hit anywhere. He was on the team and he didn't hit. So I think Ronnie I'd be perfectly fine if Lindor missed time, Ronnie Mauricio being your opening day shortstop. Fully fine with that. I'm a big Ronnie believer. Lori says, let's go Mets. Happy birthday. Thank you, Lori. Oh, Isaac, let's go Mets. Shakamoto says, I'm actually stoked on MJ as a key bench piece. Learning a lot about him this week, and I like what I'm hearing. Yeah, listen, that's the other option I forgot to mention in right field. MJ Melendez could end up being the opening day right fielder. If they deem Carson Bench not ready and he needs a little bit more time in AAA, it could be MJ Melendez, and I think the Mets would be perfectly fine with that. MJ Melendez will give you a lot more pop than Tyrone Taylor, and hell, he'd probably give you a little bit more pop than Carson Bench. So MJ Melendez could end up being a key factor to the 2026 Mets, at least in the first half of the season. If the Mets say, hey, we need Bench to get a little bit more seasoning at the plate in AAA, but Bench does have the arm. Melendez is solid defensively. MJ in right field. We got an MJ in right for the New York Mets potentially. All right, folks, that's it for today's show. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Mets Daily.